This is TJ with the Adepco Service Department. We're going to do a quick video here on checking the carburetor on a Kohler Command Pro 9.5 that you would find on our 95 G4 sprayers. Our first step is going to be removing the air filter cover and the air filter. These two clips on the side, pop them down, set it to the side, filter comes straight off, set that to the side as well. Next, we want to remove this cover. We want to make sure both of these levers are pushed all the way forward. We have two screws down here that are either Torx 20, T20, or Phillips head. Usually you're going to find them to be the T20 Torx. You've got your two 10mm bolts up here, so have your 10mm socket ready. Pop these off. Pull straight out. Set that to the side. Next, we're going to remove this intake. To do that, we need to remove both of the 13mm nuts and the one 8mm screw in the back here. After you've removed the 13mm nuts and the 8mm screw, this intake should slide forward. Now there's a breather tube behind it that will be left behind, and it connects here on this tube when we go to put it back together. Set that to the side. Also, the gasket for this, take it off and set it to the side. Next up, we're going to remove the fuel line. Remember, if you have fuel in your fuel tank, it will come out at this time. Best to do this with the tank drained or clamp the line before you remove it. Remove the clamp with a pair of needle nose pliers. Pull the tube up while pushing on it just a little bit. Next, we want to remove the return spring for the throttle. It's nice to use a pair of needle nose pliers for this. Grab it, turn it up, and it pops right out. Move this arm all the way over, and this rod will come right out as you pull out a little bit. From that point, your carburetor is now off. Now that our carburetor is off, we can start our disassembly. One thing to remember is there would be fuel in your main bowl as well as your filter bowl. You can drain that out into a proper container before you get started, and it'll help control the mess some. To drain the filter bowl, there's a 10mm hex head nut molded onto the bowl itself. That will be on there fairly tight, so use your socket and your ratchet to loosen that. Now there will be fuel in there most likely, but to drain the main bowl in the carburetor, there's an 8mm bolt on the side of the bowl. Use your 8mm socket and pull that out. After removing the screw from the side of the bowl, you want to make sure that the seal is on it. You see there's a black rubber seal on there. You want to make sure that it's definitely on there when you put it back on, or it will leak fuel. Next, we'll remove the bowl. To do that, remove the 10mm bolt on the bottom of it. Your next step, there's a pin that holds the float in. It fits loosely. Go ahead and pull that out, set it down. Then you can also remove the float itself. Note that it does have the needle built into it, so make sure that the needle valve is present and looks good. Set that to the side. To inspect your main jet, you'll want a flathead screwdriver that's fairly skinny on the sides because it needs to fit down in this port to remove the main jet. I'm just going to unscrew it. And it should fall out. Now what came out is the emulsion tube, which this end of it is the part that actually sticks up inside the carburetor. And this is what holds it in place. This little piece of brass, this is the jet. You might be able to see there's a very small hole right in the middle of it, and that actually controls the amount of flow that is sent to the carburetor for higher speed, higher than idle speed. After you've removed the main jet, you'll also have the emulsion tube inside the carburetor. If I tilt it down, it falls right out because this one is nice, new, and clean. You will want to make sure this is clean as well. Be gentle with it, but you want to make sure this has all its holes opened up and all its ports open as well. You should be able to see down through it. Next, we want to inspect the idle jet, which is located under here. To do that, we need to remove this screw, which sets your idle. We want to make sure we get that back in the same spot. So what I like to do in this situation is turn it in all the way, but watch your turns. See on my screwdriver here, I put a black line down it. I'm going to start there. So I've got my black line at the top, but I turned it in. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that stopped. I'd call it about 4 1/4 turns in. So now when I'm done with it, I know I can put it back to that spot, and my idle should be right where I left it. Now that we've checked our turns and we know how to get that screw right back where it was, we'll remove it completely. With your screw removed, you can remove the plastic piece beneath it, as well as the jet itself. You can use a flathead screwdriver, pull a shut up on it a little bit, and it comes out. Now that the carburetor is partially disassembled and we have our jets out, let's check them. We have our idle jet, our emulsion tube, and our main jet. All three of these jets have ports in them that need to be wide open. If they have a little bit of buildup in them, your motor's not going to run very good. Typically, to clean them out, they make specific tools to get to them, but typically to clean the jets, I'd use what I have around, which is there's a piece of 16 gauge wire, and I've had one strand off to the side, a thicker piece of wire with a slightly thicker strand, one strand pull off to the side, and if you have one around, you can use welding wire. It's pretty handy as well. May be difficult to see, but there's a little brass piece in the bottom of this plug. There's a tiny hole in it. When I poke through the hole in the jet, you're going to see the wire come through on this hole right behind it.